Hey everyone, and here we are, Chapter 1, Chapter 11, Retail Organization and Human Resource Management. This one's a very interesting one. I looked it over and it's got some pretty good stuff, even if it's a little dated, it's still pretty good. So the objectives here, let me put them all up, and there's quite a few. Study procedures involving setting up a retail organization, examine the various arrangements in retailing, consider the special human resource environments of retailing, and describes principles and practices involved with the human resource management process. So planning and assessing retail organization, you need to have targets, target markets. Are there certain questions that you need to ask yourself? Are there sufficient personnel to provide appropriate customer service? Are store facilities well maintained, or are changing needs promptly addressed? This is target market needs. If you look at employee needs, the questions as are positions challenging and satisfying enough? Believe it or not, those are questions that they should ask. Is the employee able to participate in the decision making? Again, this is a bigger part of getting hired. Collaborating today is really important in the workplace. Is each employee treated fairly? Again, is good performance rewarded? Bonuses, not necessarily salary, but benefits come into play. On the flip side, management would ask these type of questions. Is it relatively easy to obtain and retain competent personnel? Again, this is a big issue. Again, today, as you saw, which mentioned about the jobs in Quebec, 10,000, they're looking for 10,000, and it had almost 60,000 candidates send in their resumes. Does each worker report to only one supervisor? These are just quick questions. Are employees motivated? Is absenteeism low or high? Is there enough flexibility to adapt to changes in customers or the environment? So these are questions that they got to ask themselves. There is a process of organizing a retail firm. It starts at outlining the specific tasks to be performed in a retail distribution channel, dividing the tasks, grouping the retailer's tasks, classifying the jobs, and integrating positions through an organizational chart. So, and you need to have a plan, and you need to have a process that works. A division of tasks in a distribution channel from retailer, wholesaler, specialist, and all the way to consumers. And even today, we have 4 channels. We have direct, we have indirect channel, we have dual channel, which is a combination of direct and indirect. And in today's world, we also have a reverse channel. And the reverse channel is basically a recycling channel. In other words, if you have items such as old phones and computers, or even mattresses, they can be recycled, and the materials that come out of there could be reused. A little note. Every iPhone and pretty much every smartphone you see, there are minerals inside there, all kinds of minerals. And yes, gold, there's a lot of gold in these phones. Not individually, but together there's a lot of gold, believe it or not, that could be used or reused to make new phones for sure. So this is why the old phones individually might not be worth much, but thousands and thousands together, yes, there's a lot of gold and special metals that are inside these phones that can be recuperated and reused. And besides the wires and thing, but that's the number one thing: the copper and the gold that's in there. A job description for a manager looks like something like this, right? This is kind of an old one, but still probably staff and operate 34th Street store. Duties, sales forecasting, all the way to reviewing computer data forms, semi-annual review of overall operations. When you work in management, there is a lot of reviews and a lot of budgets, and a lot of evaluations. Those are the main tasks when you are in management. It just continues all the time, right? Evaluations, you always have to evaluate, and you are also being evaluated. Principles for organizing a retail firm. I'll put them all up here. Show interest in employees, a good idea. Monitor employee turnover. Empower employees. It's not a very easy thing to do. Not every manager could do this, This is something that comes with time or it comes with natural behavior. Recognize the power of informal relationships in work. When you work for someone, you also have to recognize that this is not a friendly relationship setting. The culture here is always revolving around business, the business of the company, not the relationships. That always takes precedent, and a lot of people lose sight of that, and that's where a lot of issues start to happen. Organization charts or structures used by smaller independents, as you can see, very simple, basic structures. And you might have here a little bit more organizational plan for department stores. This is a basic Mazur organization. It starts with the president all the way down. As you can see, it's a simple structure. This is used in a lot of stores. You got another one here. This is called the equal store organizational format used in chain stores, right? So this has to follow a certain setting all the time or a certain structure. There could be variables here, changes, but overall they're the same. Here, organizational structure of a Kroger. Kroger is like a big Walmart store or smaller size Walmart store in the States. So it would look like this. And if you look at management when it comes to retailing, or I should say human resource management, recruiting is always really important. And you're always looking for personnel, selecting them and training them. These are really the top three that in human resources, their jobs they have to do. Compensation really goes into the company. Supervising is really not done by human resources, it's mostly done by management. But these are really the 5 elements. So recruiting, selecting, and training play a big part in the everyday life of a human resource manager. True cost of employee turnover. Oh my gosh, yes, there's a lot of costs there. Recruiting and hiring, training costs. This is why we want to keep personnel happy, because we know the cost of retraining somebody is extremely expensive and time consuming. Also, full pay benefits before full productivity is reached. Yes, this plays a big part in turnover. And unfortunately, a lot of new employees don't see the value in benefits, and they should. You should. The pay is one thing, but the benefits can also be a big part of your salary, or your remuneration, I should say. Costs of mistakes made by new and experienced employees. Again, if they're not trained very well, you are going to get a lot of mistakes, and it's going to be very expensive. Loss of customers loyal to departing employees. That is less and less. It's not as important as it used to be, certainly. And loss or damaged relationship with suppliers also is a question that comes into play with employee turnover, right? And then also you've got the morale, and the perception of that morale by the company plays a huge part too. We also have here a slide on women in retailing. Do we really need this today? Probably. Hopefully we won't need this in a near future, where we don't have to distinguish the gender, male, female, or whatever. It should be just everybody and not just women in retailing. Here, issues to address regarding female workers, meaningful training programs, advancement opportunities, flex time. Again, this is scary to see. This, of course, is an American. Yes, this is an American PowerPoint, and all these issues are less and less here in Canada. Childcare, right? These are certainly not. And also here they put the retailing empires that were started by women. So it's a big thing in the States. There's a big issue, as you know, with what's happening in the States today. And there should be also women lives matter too in the States, because there's still not the freest country in the world. I don't think so. And it's women don't have the freedom that men do as much. So it's a big still issue that you would need such a slide. It's terrible. Even my neighbor's dog, as you hear, does not agree with this slide. Minorities in retailing, pretty similar, right? Issues to address regarding to minority workers, clear policy statements, active recruitment programs to stimulate minority applications. Mine, this is really old. Wow, right? Zero tolerance for insensitive workplace behavior. Absolutely, that I agree upon for sure. But one day we won't need to have a slide like this, just like the women's slide. Right? Diversity is always a big issue. That's going to continue no matter what. That employees be hired and promoted in a fair and open way without regard to gender, ethnic background, and other related factors. That in a diverse society, the workplace should be representative of such diversity. I basically somehow don't believe in all of this. I think we should hire the best person for the jobs, and I don't think we should have to be influenced by the gender, ethnic background, or other related factors. Right? We need a world that is equal for everybody, and everybody has the chance of getting a job. In some companies, you'll see that they were going to hire one black, or they're going to hire one or two ethnic backgrounds because they want to be equal like everybody. Want to show the world that hey, we are very open and diverse here. We have different cultures working, or different races working for us. That is BS, right? You always got to go with the best employees. This is my philosophy, no matter what the race or background is. But we can talk about that as you think. Do we have to be inclusive, or do we always go for the best employee? Big question. Retailers, when you talk about labor laws, retailers must not hire underage workers. I hope not. Pay workers off the books, under the table. Require workers to engage in illegal acts. Hope not. Discriminate in hiring. Violate worker safety regulations. Disobey the Americans with disability. I'm not sure what that means. Deal with suppliers that disobey labor laws. So again, this is an American. It's kind of confusing to talk here in Canada because a lot of this stuff doesn't apply to us. But our labor laws are a little bit different, specifically here in Quebec. A goal-oriented job description for management training. Actually, that's what we might do. Actually, I might give you a little project next week since we have time, and I'm going to look at some of these questions that are relatively American, and we'll make them Canadian, and we'll make them Quebec. A goal-oriented job description for a management trainee. You can see all the kinds of skills from analytical, flexibility, initiative, leadership, and so on. Here's a checklist of selected training decisions that you have to ask. Questions: when should training occur? How long should training be? Should audio visuals be used? I should hope so. How should the effectiveness of training be measured? So components of compensation: total compensation, salary plus commission, and also profit sharing are three components of compensation, which means pay. Employee behavior and motivation. Several attitudes may affect employer behavior: sense of accomplishment, liking of work, attitude, knowledge of business strategy. Of course, here you don't have people that are very passive aggressiveness and ghosting and gaslighting. So these are three things that we don't talk about here. But in offices today, the behavior, this all goes under behavior. The behavior is critical. And employees certainly have to, be trained in knowing how to behave in a workplace vis-a-vis working or talking or being in your own lives. But in a workplace, it's not the same thing. You have to come with a different approach and a different behavior. This goes right across the board. Right, style of supervising retail employees. This is a cool slide. Management assumes employees must be closely supervised and controlled. Only economic inducements motivate. Management assumes employees can be self-managers and assign authority. Motivation is intrinsic, not extrinsic. It's inside yourself, subjective. Management applies self-management approach. So a lot of this information, I'm not even sure what they're trying to say here. They're switching from management assumes employees must be closely supervised to management assumes employees can be self-managers. It's a bit back and forth kind of a thing. But anyway, I'd like to have your opinions on this. This is chapter 11. This is our last chapter. If you have any ideas for next week, I'd like to hear them. Thank you.